So the question is, are you ever required to speak to the police? Are you required to cooperate with them, with their investigations? And are you required to answer their questions in relation to any allegations purporting to you yourself or to any other person? The short answer is no. There are very few circumstances in which you are required to cooperate with the police and answer their questions. The one that pops to mind is when there's a motor vehicle, it's passed through some sort of speed trap, they're not able to identify the driver. In that circumstance, they're able to ask you, if the vehicle is of course registered to you in your name, as to where the vehicle was on the night in question, if you're aware of where it was and what the circumstances are relating to the keys for that vehicle, who may have been driving the vehicle on the night, and how you store the keys. Otherwise, you are not required to speak to the police, answer their questions, either in relation to yourself or in relation to other people. You're always entitled to be silent, so to speak. You're always entitled to obtain legal advice. You're not required to give a video record an interview. You're not required to even step into the room where the video interview takes place. You're not required to go on video to give a no-comment interview. You're not required to go on a video and answer some questions and not answer others. The problem that arises if you give one of these interviews whereby you say yes to some questions and yes to others is that potentially anyone that's viewing that video later on, whether it's a magistrate for a simple offence or a jury and a judge in relation to indictable offences, they might draw some sort of adverse inference or conclusion as a result of the questions that you answered and the ones that you chose not to answer. And that inference may not be accurate. The other thing that you have to take into account is that being interviewed by the police is a stressful situation. You've been arrested. You probably don't have any legal training. You may never have been arrested before in the past. And what's essentially going to happen if you give a video record an interview, for example, is that you're going to be stuck with the answers that you've given off the cuff in that sort of situation forever. And one of the things that's going to happen is that you're going to be questioned in relation to those answers. And if any of the answers that you give subsequently are inconsistent with the answers that you gave on that particular occasion, an adverse inference is going to be drawn. In other words, when were you telling the truth? Were you telling the truth then? Are you telling the truth now? Why are your answers inconsistent? Why should you believe? Why not just be guilty? So, long story short, don't do it. I always advise clients not to do it. There's no reason for you to do it. Don't fall into this trap where the police will, I guarantee, state to you that they just want to hear your side of the story, and this is your opportunity to tell your side of the story, because, you know, ultimately, they just want to get down to the bottom of what actually happened. Now, what will often happen in that case, after you've given your side of the story, is you'll say, for example, well, am I going to be charged? And they'll say, well, you know, I'm going to have to go speak to someone who's a senior officer and talk about that. And then they go and they come back, and that's when you get charged. Whereas they're, you know, on at least a 50-50 basis, if you had not complied with their request to give a interview, they may not have had enough evidence in order to ultimately charge you. That I can tell you for a fact. The other thing that they'll do is, you know, take you outside of the room, ask you to speak off the record, stuff like that, you know, not necessarily admissible as evidence, but you're not required to assist them with their investigation. So I really don't see the point in doing any of that. As a defense lawyer, of course. You yourselves are obviously free to do whatever you want, but that's my 2 cents.